All right, at this time, I'd like to open the Select Board meeting for the town of Clarksburg on Wednesday, April 26th at 1 p.m. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up on the agenda is the review and approval of minutes. First set of meeting minutes was for March 22nd of this year. I wasn't in attendance. So, Bob, you said you looked this over?
Yeah, I looked it over, it looked good to me. I'll make a motion to approve
I'll second that.
September 22nd.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the next two are for March 29th of this year and April 5th. And I've looked over both sets, and Dan and Bob, you've looked over both.
Yep.
Any questions, comments, statements?
Looked good to me.
All right, if not, I'd like to make a motion to approve the select board meetings from March 29th, 23, and the select board meeting of April 5th of this year as written. Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The election warrant is next up on the agenda. I think I just saw this over here. That's right here, percent. All right, so we have just a list of what's available, or who's, we have on the select board one seat available on the planning board, and the town moderator. Carl, what do we need to do with this?
Just approve it and sign it. Is there a second page with your
There
signatures?
should be, and there
If it
is.
looks okay. And Marilyn was asking if we're intending on moving the annual town meeting date, and I said I don't think so, but that's not my decision.
No,
I don't see any reason to.
I don't see any reason at this point.
No, I don't think we're gonna be in any different position than
What
we
about
were.
for the school to have time to get their grants in order? That was the main reason why we're gonna move it back, to give the school a little bit of time.
Have you been in touch? Have
I
they
haven't
heard
had a
anything?
chance to be in touch with John.
I mean, that decision doesn't have to be made today.
Right, I get that.
You know, we can hammer out and do a preliminary approval on the budget pending receipt of anything new. And next week, invite John and the chair of the school committee, or if the whole school committee wants to come, and we can hammer out, you know, I think that's the only question. I mean, Jeff and I spent, 2 hours yesterday, solidly going over various scenarios with the budget. I think, well, we'll get to that, but I think that, you know, we've come to the best possible scenario that we could.
I just know from that previous meeting I had with John that he said if we could buy them some time to work on getting some grants, that would be helpful to them. So,
But how is that going to impact what we're giving them? That would only cut it, not increase it, because if we do what we're thinking of doing, we can't go any higher.
We can't go any higher.
We can't go any
you
higher.
know, that helps them on their end to kind of balance out their side, you know.
But that would be good, and if their grants wouldn't be in our budget anyway.
Gotcha, okay.
So that would be a, you know, good thing for them, solidly, no question there, but that's not going to change anything in here. Because those grants wouldn't come to the town and we disperse it. The grants would directly go to the school. That's generally how it works.
Correct, yeah, but doesn't it, the town meeting, they have to approve the school budget there also?
The school budget, but if you get a grant, it's not, so like, for instance, when we got the $1 million strap grant, we don't go to town meeting to approve it.
I know, but they need that grant money to help offset their budget, though, is what they're trying to do.
So how you look at it is that we're going to give them X amount of dollars. Whatever they get in their budget, they can do is whatever the budget or whatever the grant tells them to do, but that's not in the budget and it doesn't need to be voted on.
Okay.
It's in addition to this. It's not part of this.
I get that. I just thought there was an urgency to wait for those grants to come in, but.
And we can, I mean, unless they're gonna come in with a lower number for here.
I think that's what they were thinking.
And I'm okay with that too.
I think they were thinking that the grants would allow them to come in with a lower number. Now,
Okay.
I may misunderstood, but
No, you're correct. It was to offset their budget number, so they could come into, into where it needs to be.
But we can't do anything else with ours. Ours is pretty much at capacity.
And when we get to that, you'll see
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
you know, once we
Okay.
get to discussing the budget.
All right, so, if you guys like to look over this, this warrant's pretty basic. And once we do that, we can make a motion to approve.
yeah, looks good to me. Do we have people running for all those offices, do we know?
For the ones that are on there, but we have a whole lot that ain't.
Okay.
And that's
Yeah, looks good
typical,
to me.
you know, I mean, in this day and age, it's par for the course.
All right. Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the election warrant for May 30th, 2023. Need a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next couple items on the agenda, the MVP update and the anniversary committee update.
Oh, shoot, I can sign them Dan's.
Bob, we can turn
Yep.
that over to you if you
Sure,
want.
yeah, we just had a meeting of the MVP, and I think a lot of good news. I think we're really moving forward. I think we have a chance to get some good grants for Townfield in that area. It's a lot of work and a lot of struggling, but we've been doing it, and thank goodness for Courtney Morehouse from the Berkshire Regional Planning and our assistant Brittany. They put in a lot of hours, a lot of work. So the bottom line is, we're going to be signing a letter of
Support.
approval here, support here. And we had them come in, we had letters come in from the VFW, the school, the fire department, the Council on Aging, the Recreation Committee, the DPW, and
And we're waiting for your signature here.
so we're showing that the town is really supportive, and they were impressed with that. They said that's good. So what they're going for, I'll try to make this as short as I can, is they're going for about $240,000 grant. And this grant is going to be so we can hire the engineering and the firms to decide what's going to be done there. Now, we have to keep in mind, anytime we get a grant for the MVP, we have to pay 10%, which is low. I mean, a grant only paying 10% is really good. So the question was, where's the town gonna come up with the money? And like that, for this initial preliminary grant, to hire the engineer, we gotta come up with probably up around $24,000, depending on what the number of grant will be. But we had some discussion, and we were told that we can use in-kind donations. So like if we have fundraisers and we get money, let's say from industries or commercial properties, from banks or whatever, that we can use that, to be put against that. Also, I've talked with Straight Up, which is an old group from the 70s, a high school group, that two of them live in Clarksburg, and they said they may be willing, they put the date aside to have entertainment there. And they will charge a certain amount, but what their normal fee is, if there's a difference between, so let's say they normally charge $1,500, and they say, look, for Clarksburg, for this, we'll only charge $500, $1,000 will go toward our in-kind donations. So I think that's the avenue we gotta take, is try to come up with as much money as we can, so we don't have to tap into town resources.
And also our time that we commit to.
Yeah.
So in-kind services also includes the volunteer time. So like when I did the reimbursements for the hazard mitigation, which was required to get to the MVP, the hourly calculation for in-kind services for time is like $38.62 per hour. So you can see that with the number of people working on this, that we're not anticipating having the town spend any money.
I see that, yeah.
If any, it should
If
be
any.
minimal.
Yeah,
And yeah, the other thing is like the day of the event, the 225th, the MVP, we're gonna have a booth. So all the MVP committee volunteers will be there all day. So I mean, it'll probably be like a 6-hour day at least of 7, 8 people there. So all those hours will be charged, will be in-kind hours that we put in. I'll spend some time before the meeting, like clearing the trail, because they want to have people be able to walk on the escape trail to the school. That can be my in-kind donation.
I see,
So-
yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's where we stand on that. We're meeting again next Monday to finalize this grant process. And it doesn't mean we're going to get it, but I really think we did our work properly, and I think we're on the right track.
It looks good, yeah.
so in that vein, are you guys okay to sign the letter of support for that?
I am, I read that, I got it in my email yesterday. Yeah, definitely. And that's over here, isn't it?
Jeff, I'm always fearful of giving you papers.
I know it. Well, I have my copy, but I know this isn't.
Is it under the budget in front of you? Because I did lay that on.
Oh, okay.
Right here. This is the MVP grant
Oh,
program.
this is the, yes, with the letterhead, yes. All right. See, I didn't take it, Carl. I may take it home with me, but I didn't take it yet.
We're gonna segregate it. Give me the election warrant.
It's sitting right there.
Yeah.
I moved it right out of the way, out of his reach.
Now, we have a real committed group on the committee, and with a lot of expertise. I mean, Cleve is on from the Conservation Commission, Lauren from the COA, I represent the town.
Jim Brandon.
Brandon is a geologist.
Fantastic addition.
And now Marinda Bona, who's also a geologist,
Yeah.
is joining us. Emily Roselli's representing the school, so we have a good group of people. And I think that goes a long way to show our commitment and dedication.
All right, Bob, what do you got for us on the anniversary?
Anniversary committee, we met and it's going to be a massive project, but what we decided to do, and I think we had talked about this last time, is we have a committee and members of the committee are going to represent a certain groups, like Emily Roselli is going to represent the school. I'm representing MVP. Susan Brandon is representing the Historic Commission. Chip Cheeseboro's on it. He's representing the fire department. And I know I'm missing other people. John Foster's representing the COA.
Tammy?
Who?
Steve and Tammy?
Steve and Tammy Moranti, they're going to be overall overseers because, well, let me back up. So each group is going to sponsor like an area or a tent, and they'll be responsible for that booth so that we all aren't tripping over everybody's feet or deciding, well, I think you should do this or you should do that. The school will decide what they want to do, and they'll have a booth, and they're going to have some games for the kids and things like that. The fire department are going to decide what they want to do. I was told from Chip that they're going to have an emergency vehicle there, a fire truck there. They're going to have hands-on for kids. We're going to try to get a police cruiser or something there for that. The MVP, I already told you, we're going to have a tent to show people what we want to do with the project, the town field and the crossroads. But anyway, they'll do their own thing. And then hopefully Tammy and Steve will be an overall planner of how it's going to be laid out because it is going to be a big project. There was a couple of things that they wanted to bring to the board. We don't know if our committee was ever sanctioned by the board or approved. I thought it was, but I'm looking back, I couldn't find where we were. So we may need to have a motion, just, if I could make a motion that you approve a committee for the 225th anniversary, call it the anniversary committee. I'd appreciate that.
Is that something we can do off agenda, or?
Well, it's right in line with the MVP.
Right.
It's in line with the MVP and the
Anniversary.
25,
Yep.
because it's going to be part and parcel of that.
No, it wasn't specifically laid out.
If you want to wait till next week.
I don't want to wait if you think it's
I think we're okay
appropriate
with
it
that.
now, because yeah. So what'd you call it?
I call it the anniversary committee.
Okay. All right, I'd make a motion to approve to approve the anniversary committee for this upcoming project.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
And then to go along with that, a couple things from the town, is, there will be fundraising. So we're wondering if there could be a line item or an account that the town takes care of, that money will go into. So when we do, get that, and I know for the renovation committee at school, they just put a line in, and any money that came in went into that account, and then they spent from that account. So I believe it's pretty easily done that way, right, Carl?
Yeah, and how that process is done is, and this goes back to when we did the fundraiser for the siding of the front of the town hall. So if you get an identifiable, so anonymous is anonymous, you know, some people prefer it that way, that it has to be accepted by the board, the select board, and acknowledged by who gave it. So hypothetically, if ABC Bank were to donate money, then we would say, okay, they, at a meeting in the future, ABC Bank committed this amount of money to this project, so we vote to accept it and then thank them. And that's the process, and then put it in that account. Yeah.
And what is that account?
What it would be a
be
fund account.
Anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah, anniversary
Celebration
for
account.
that purpose.
Okay.
So it can only be used for
For
the
that purpose.
anniversary
Yeah.
project. And to go along with that then, because we are going to start a fundraising campaign, they wanted to make sure that, because it's a Clarksburg anniversary, that we could use a Clarksburg town letterhead to send out letters asking, like, banks and businesses if they would donate to our anniversary celebration. Because it's a
It's
town.
sanctioned by the town, so I don't see a problem.
No, me either.
Okay, we just wanted to make sure of that. Susan, you know if I left anything out from the meeting? I think that was all I had to run by the select board. Dan, there was one thing for you, just, they were talking about possibly when the time comes in, and we got a couple months to talk about this, however, but we may get signs made or whatever, if you'd be willing to give us a good price or to be involved in that when the time
Yeah,
comes.
absolutely. I'd be happy to, donate some signage and, we can go, we'll go from there with it.
All right, and
Is that part of that in-kind matching?
that would be part of in-kind, yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I
Of course, the
can,
board would have to approve and select, and accept.
Oh, and we did, yes, I gotta tell you, we did set a date. It's gonna be September 9th, which is a Saturday after Labor Day. From noon till 5 is gonna be when the event's open. We'll get there early, obviously, set up, and we'll be there later, but it's gonna be September 9th from noon to 5. We're gonna try to get straight up to play from 2 to 5. Our rain date will be that Sunday, September 10th. And I believe that's it. So we just appreciate getting the word out, and if you know anybody that wants to help us and do things. When the time comes, of course, it's going to be a big day of setting up and stuff, so we'll need volunteers to do that.
absolutely, I'd be happy to, well, pretty sure my schedule's open that day.
We decided not to wait any further because the next weekend is fresh grass, and we don't want to be competing with fresh grass.
Yeah.
And then before that is Labor Day and summer school and people on vacation, so we thought this was the best date for it.
Seems like a good date for it. Still nice weather. Hopefully, still
Yeah,
nice weather, I
hopefully.
should say.
Hopefully.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your work on that, Bob,
Yeah,
on MVP.
It'll be a nice
committee.
event.
It will be. All right, update on the Green Communities Project. This is the heat pumps and all that.
And the saga continues.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. And so I've had some chats with the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs and Guardian. And so, a couple of things. Miraculously, we don't need to upgrade the electrical service. Miraculously, instead of $2,200 in incentives from the utility companies, it's now increased to $35,000. So the issue before us is, we have drop ceilings throughout the building, and one can only assume the worst. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. So in order to install the heat pumps in the building, they're going to have to go through the ceilings here and upstairs. We don't know what's in there, and my concern, as is theirs, is there could be potential asbestos. So, I have had communications with Guardian Energy, and I think we can move forward with it now, thank God, and use the $35,000 as a backstop if there are some areas that may, and they may not, and I'm certainly hopeful that it's not. But, the building is 1938, and it was pretty typical type of construction, so, I'm not naive. And so what I proposed to, actually I sent him the email back this morning to Charlie L., is that I would like to, because we anticipate it being under $50,000, that arrange a time, and then also couple that with a site visit for any potential contractor, and then Guardian can tell me where they need to put them, and we will deal with that issue if it is in fact an issue, and then we can get the RFP squared away. Well, we don't even have to do an RFP because it's under $50,000. It's good business practices, written estimates. So I'll contact asbestos testing companies and also removal companies if need be, and that's how we'll proceed. So I guess that we're back on track. There is one thing in the contract I was reviewing, and I don't want to move forward with that component. Is one thing they were thinking of doing is dismantling our existing heating system. I would like that as a backup. Those are not that old. Those are brand new in like '06.
Yeah.
And they work fine. And I've heard a lot of horror stories about heat pumps, especially in old buildings. I know North Adams struggled terribly with the library. I don't want to go down that road. I have low blood pressure and I'm cold all the time anyway. So, but my comfort aside, I think that it would be wise to have, them keep them here for the time being.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
So I'll and that should reduce our
Okay, so
exposure cost.
we don't have to upgrade our electrical, that's huge.
That's huge.
Because I thought we were going to.
My fear was that, we'd have to put a new service in, because at one time they're saying we need 2 legs of 220, and then the next time they're saying we need 8, and then the next time they're saying we need 3.
Yeah, that's a little troubling.
Well, it is. It's terrible.
And now we don't need any.
Right. So,
I mean, so there's a lot of variables here that
Well,
I'm a little worried about.
my concern is then you start having to shut down town hall for what, a week because of you got no power? And then what about if there is potential asbestos that needs to be removed? How long, in what areas, and, so we're gonna be walling off areas of the town hall. I don't wanna lose a month of productivity here. I mean, we have a very hard-working, dedicated staff, but it's not a huge staff, and, if we lose 8% of our working time, that would not be a good thing.
So we have basically $35,000 to offset.
We do not have it. It will be offered.
Right, it will be offered, but we
Yes.
can use that to offset the removal of the asbestos.
Yes, and I will forward each of you the email that I sent out this morning.
So, rather than move forward, we really can't move forward until we find out how much, if the asbestos isn't cost us much more than $35,000.
Well, we have to move forward in order to get that to that place to see what it's going to cost, or if it even is asbestos.
Right.
So I am coordinating that with Guardian. So
So they're gonna, is Guardian going to come in and let us know if there's asbestos, or?
No, I'm gonna have to solicit proposals
Okay,
from licensed qualified asbestos people. Then I will set a site visit
okay, but you
with
can't,
Guardian
you can't know,
until I get a number from,
right, but you can't know where the asbestos is until Guardian's gonna tell you where they're gonna put the pumps, and
that's why I wanna have them here together.
Gotcha, okay.
Because then there's no question about, well,
Right.
Carl got it in the wrong spot.
Mhm.
I don't wanna go down that
Okay.
road.
All right,
So, yeah,
okay.
so onward and upward.
Still a little troubling with that whole electrical.
It is,
but-
and again, it's been a very long process to get where we are.
All right, review and approve the Historic Commission, Friends of Historic Commission fundraiser. Is that you, Joe? Good, okay.
Yeah,
What you got for us?
well, we'd like to know if there's any reason why we can't raise funds for the historic commission.
No, there's no reason.
You know, Can we, sell cash calendars or anything like that
Or have raffles.
have raffles? I
Here's,
just didn't know if there was any kind of, law that would prohibit that.
no, and that would be almost the same thing as doing the front of the town hall. And in tandem with that, there are some items they would like to auction off, and some of them are in the house we own. And if your guys are okay with that, then they can raffle those things off too, and they may do so at the anniversary,
Yep. That'd be appropriate
at
time
the
for-
jamboree, or whatever you want to call it. And then the idea is to have a small historical museum in that front room, which I showed you the other day. And it has a plywood floor. And so we would be looking to maybe have some type of a genuine imitation hardwood, vinyl or something that's easy to keep clean, good for traffic, but looks kind of classy.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you guys to look at it after the meeting. I'll take you on a tour if you want. And but I wholeheartedly support their effort.
Okay.
Me too, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
Joe.
great.
Yeah,
We do have
Thank you.
some items in there that we picked up from
yeah.
the home on Millard Avenue.
Mm.
You guys are welcome to stop by and look at it. It looks pretty neat.
Yeah, it does. And the kayak is in the,
I looked at it yesterday, it was, yeah,
Yeah.
that's some, it looks nice in there, Joe.
Yeah.
Floor is gonna make a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the really nice thing, and one consistent thing that we have is we have Memorial Day and Veterans Day functions, and that, you can open that up for the
Absolutely.
people,
Yeah.
and it has a direct access door to the front porch. So that's a swimmingly perfect location for it.
So is everything out of the Millard Avenue?
Oh, God, no. I filled my dumpster up,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful he took it. I don't want to go into the gritty details, but I think we took out probably solidly 10.
And we
Garbage
can't do
barrels.
anything with it until it's.
No, I've already signed the papers.
Oh, you did, okay,
They're working on it, and as soon as they're done on their end, it's going up for auction.
great.
And it'll come with a couple of gifts.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Okay, but as long, we're moving forward on it, which
Yeah,
is
we
good.
are moving forward on it,
It's a
as
good
fast as
thing.
we can go with it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, Joe, anything you can do to help, or let us know?
I
Yeah,
appreciate it, gentlemen. And,
absolutely.
I've also.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
We have a bunch of crosscut saws
Yeah,
that, I'm
yeah,
gonna be
2-man
working on.
saws.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna be cleaning them up, and Carl made a suggestion that we could maybe letter it after we paint them and
Hang them on the wall.
hang them on the wall.
And if we have another storm, we can, when we run out of gas.
Yeah, you tell Lumpy that one.
You don't have to go to your exercise stuff anymore.
Really? All right. Again, thanks, Joe, appreciate that. All right, update on a meeting with the elected officials at the Clarksburg Elementary School. This is for the bid on the lift.
So yes, so the bid came in at $68,000. I have a call into Garvanta right now, and it's the only bid we got. And it's well within our budget. There's a couple of things we're gonna have to pay for the electrical separately out of that, which is okay. And I'm just working out, there's a couple of items in the contract that are somewhat troublesome. And I'm working to, and I'm waiting for a call back from the representative from Garvanta. I don't think that they're insurmountable at all. Tom Bona very generously is helping shepherd through the permit application for the Architectural Access Board permit. So it's all steam ahead.
Yeah, the only minor issue is there was a 12-week material delay,
Yeah,
which they need to get started on it. I mean, you know, they have to order it like within the next 2-3 weeks, or else it's gonna run into September. But we think, and Carl, he's working on getting information for Tom, the Tom finished permit, so hopefully
Yeah.
that can all get done.
and I met with
We got them
Norm
busy as can be. Yeah, Norm,
this morning.
okay,
He was a little confused about my email, so I told him I just need copies of the permits.
Okay.
That's all. And he said, that's fine, he's got them, and he'll get them to me.
okay. Yeah, so you may have to hound, Gavani, is that, what is it?
Garvanta.
Gavanta, you may have to hound them because we don't want them holding up anything either, but,
Clearly. And I've got a call into him, I'm just
Yeah.
waiting for a call back, and I'm sure they will.
okay.
These troubling issues in the,
Well, in the contract, one component is that they wanted to be paid up front, and in municipal law, you cannot do that.
okay.
So if they deliver stuff here, and we take possession of
pay
it,
for that.
and we can store it,
Mhm.
then we can pay for that.
Correct.
And that's how I want to approach
We,
it.
we think they use boilerplate verbiage in a lot of it.
I'm sure
And I
they do.
understand
And of course,
it.
the state, the town all works a little differently, so
Right.
I got a feeling it'll be fine, but
I'm
it's gotta be
suspecting.
done.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try to be as flexible as I can, but I gotta follow the procurement laws.
Okay.
We're still shooting to have this done over the summertime before September.
It's probably gonna be closer to August.
It's gonna be August, because 12 weeks, you know, for the lead time for the material to come in. And that's why,
We're
I don't wanna be
we're
pressuring
hustling as
Carl,
quickly.
but we're trying to get
We're
this
working
done.
as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right. All right, budget discussion and completion.
Well, maybe not quite completion, but at least discussion. So, we've got most of the budget squared away. I think that the big one is, that's still not resolved, is obviously the school. And you know, you can look through the budget, and there's a whole lot that has either gone nowhere, it's the same. Some of it's gone down. There are some significant increases, specifically in the McCann tuition and in the pensions. And between those two items alone is a $140,000 increase. And then we also have increases in the assessor's budget for our consultant. So I have trimmed as much as I feel comfortable with from the town side of the budget. So even though those hard expenses that we cannot do anything about, if you look on page 13, you can see that the budget for the town did not go up $140,000. It went up about $84,000. And the rest of it is pretty much in taking a scalpel here and there and that type of a thing. Jeff and I met at length yesterday, looking at various scenarios. So the numbers that you see right here are at a 2% increase for the school. And Jeff and I had a very, like I said, lengthy discussion. What does 2% look like? What does 3% look like? What does 4% look like? And we have $240,000 in stabilization. So that's how we're going to run the budget as far as I can tell.
So that is a true amount, 240, that's what we finally figured out on that.
Yeah, and we had to get all of the warrants for the last 3 years certified by Maryland, and to have the additions and subtractions put in, because they had not been done for 3 years. So our treasurer got those things squared away, delighted. I understand the amount of work that still needs to be done for free cash. I guess that my thoughts are this: if we are to go to a regular town meeting in May, which is where I think we're headed, and working with our stabilization, if perchance that free cash gets certified in early, and it would have to be very early June, then what we could do is we could do a quick special town meeting, move all of the free cash into stabilization, and then deal with whatever issues are in the new fiscal year. So Jeff, you actually have the numbers at 3% and 4%?
So, yeah, so moving forward, and this is kind of where Carl and I differ a little bit. I don't believe that that's going to be, this free cash is going to be certified
I don't
by
either.
that.
I don't either.
So I want to move on as if it weren't going to be, and
Right.
and that's pretty much.
Agree with you.
So when Carl did a 2% raise with the school budget, you came out, Carl, with, from that 240 in our stabilization, we would have $190,000 left with the 2% raise.
Yep.
All right, so now I did the numbers on 3%. In doing the numbers on 3%, that would raise the school budget to $2,866,245.23. That would be taking at 2%, it would be $55,655 we'd be taking from stabilization. At 3%, we would have $200,561 left in stabilization, and that's at 3%.
I'm sorry, something.
That's more than
No, okay,
3%.
no, I'm sorry, I got my things mixed up here. 3% would bring the school budget to $2,866,244.43.
Yep.
It
And our stabilization, we
would
would have to
use.
we'd take a $205,000, wasn't that, Carl? I don't have that
Let me
figure.
see your notes. I think I can interpret your notes. Okay, so at 3%, if we were to go at 3%, we would need to use $83,482.87 from stabilization, which would leave us $156,517 in stabilization. Now, beware that the town is going to need about $85,000 from stabilization to balance its books, because our budget has gone up significantly too. So this is not in a vacuum, if you will. If we went with a 4% increase for the school, that would bring the budget to $2,894,072, and that would use $111,310.49 in stabilization. Now, if you're looking at page 13 of the budget request sheet, you can see that the town's side of the budget is up about $85,000, $84,500. So
And what's that, is that about 4%?
that would be no.
No, that's not at 4%.
Not at
Well,
all.
not at all.
I don't have that
I don't
number
have
in front of me,
a
Bob.
calculator either.
I
Okay,
can run
that's
it in a
fine.
minute. So, and then if you use the 85,000 out of that, it would leave the town, after all is said and done, with a 4% to the school, with just shy of 40,000 left in stabilization, which is a concern. And Jeff and I shared that. We jawed about it for a long time. And I guess we've looked at the past. We have, even during Hurricane Irene and Sandy, and we've been through quite a bit in the last couple decades. I can't think of an instance where we were put into a position where we had to hypothetically rebuild a road overnight type of thing. So the thinking that we have is, and I'm not happy with having so little in the bank, quite clearly. But we would have 40,000 to at least start remedying any issue. And then we'd have to go to town meeting and do a debt exclusion and borrow and worry about it in the next budget. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Now, if the school were to get grants that they could reduce that amount so that we're not running so skinny, that's certainly welcome. I have no problem with that. I suspect that, you know, when free cash is certified, good God, it hasn't been done in 3 years, that we should have a good, healthy number. The other thing to consider, too, is that the circuit breaker, which is a reimbursement for special education placements, which is the driver of the increase for the huge increase in the school budget. That's the primary driver. They don't start reimbursing you until the second year. So next year, they will see a reimbursement for that placement. And so I guess my thoughts are is then that should be able to be applied toward next year's budget.
Our next year's budget.
Yeah, the
not
town's.
school.
The town's.
That's how I was going to have a question today with, it's $170,000 what for the special needs student. They were going to get reimbursed, 120 of that, because I think 48,000 is what the town will have to pay. So is that 128? I didn't want it to go back to the school budget. That should come back to the town budget.
Well, how you would look at it is that in next year's budget, they're not going to have to pay that 148,000, so then they can reduce their budget the equivalent of this year of 148.
Okay.
That's, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I just want to make
Okay.
sure that it's not, put aside and not included because
It
it's
has to be
reimbursed.
included. It really does. You know, I mean, the town is doing everything within its power to accommodate and to keep the town operating.
I guess I was looking at it, I'm thinking of town meeting, how to explain it, I was looking at it. If the town has to take their stabilization fund to fund that school department, then when the reimbursement comes in, that money should actually go back in the stabilization fund.
But they're gonna need, if I understand the placement, it's gonna be until that individual is 22 years old.
Okay.
So it's not going to go away. It's going to be repetitive until that time. So that could be applied towards next year's.
Yeah, and
So then that would reduce their outlays for next year.
Okay,
That's what I'm thinking.
yeah,
Where I lost my way here earlier when we were trying to discuss this, when Carl did the budget with a 2% increase for the school at $190,000, that would have left us stabilization with $50,000. At the 3%, it would leave us with $39,500 left in stabilization. That's at 3%. As you know, the school budget is up 8.5%, 8.46%. So we're still not even close. So Carl and I did it again at 4%.
yeah.
And at 4%, it leaves us with $34,000 roughly in change left in stabilization. What Carl and I were discussing is if we have an emergency, it doesn't matter if you have 34, 39, and, you know, it's probably not going to cover it anyway.
Right.
So actually, we could offer a 4% increase, still have $34,000 left in stabilization. And at least it shows it was, when you have an 8.5% increase in the school budget and we're offering 2%, I want to show the school that we're trying. We're trying to help. And at 4%, it leaves our stabilization account low, but it's low anyway. And at least we're making a substantial effort. 4% is a big increase. And so I'm hoping, like what Dan said, they get the grants and they can bring it down. They can come down from 8.5, hopefully much closer to 4. But the bottom line is that's all we have.
Yeah.
That they can't come, we can't say, look, maybe we can do 5.5. We can't. We did these numbers for 2 hours yesterday. 4% is stretching it, but again, we went back and forth. We haven't had an emergency, and we've been through a lot where we've had to pull money out of stabilization. The circuit breaker will kick in next year. A few years ago, the school did us a favor on our budget, and this year when I spoke with Tara Barnes, she was like, can you just help us get through this year? And maybe next year, things will be better when that circuit breaker kicks in. So I'm reasonably comfortable offering 4%. We'll see how that flies, but again, we just can't. This is it. This is hours of like Carl says, cutting with a scalpel. We're just trying. This is the best I can do, and we can't. I don't know where we go from here.
We have no other place to go.
So I guess we'd have to put it in our budget at 4.
And I agree. There's really, we can't go any higher.
No.
And
I'm not even comfortable with this.
I'm very nervous.
I am.
I'm not comfortable with it for a couple of reasons, and a lot of people are going to think that I'm against the school when I was talking about town stuff, but I look at it, we're in this all together. The school is part of the town. And like say our highway department, we couldn't go to 4 people, which we need. Our town roads are a mess. I mean, I had somebody at the school tell me that education is the #1 priority of the town, the only thing town got. Safety is the #1 priority.
Yeah.
And safety includes infrastructure, the police department, the fire department, all this and that. Then education would come next. So, I mean, even using that, I just, no, we're all in this together. We can't keep hurting the town to make the school. And I mentioned to John Ranzoni, I said, we have to have it adequate for the school. And he said, education you can't be adequate with. He said, you got to be above that. I said, well,
We're not
roads and
rich enough.
bridges and towns like this you can't be adequate with. Safety you can't be adequate with. And so it's always pitting the school against the town. And I just worry at town meeting, I know if I was not a select board and know what was going on, I'd come at town meeting and say, $34,000 when you have no free cash for stabilization fund, no, that's way too low. And I'm worried if they shoot down the school budget, we're going to be in trouble. I mean, they have got to show that they've cut, just like we've been cutting. And there's got to be give and take. And I just feel that I and the renovation committee and people in town, we are for the school. We're trying to do the best we can for the school, but the school's not the only thing in town. Mm-hmm. The school's only part of it.
And we have a history, and the town is the one who always takes it on the chin, and you can clearly see that with the condition of our roads, our bridges, and here's another thing that I don't think people are aware of because it just happened, but the State Bridge Inspection Unit just came through town. the McKay Hill Bridge, at the bottom of McKay Hill,
Yep.
which is on Middle Road, near where that horrible accident was there last
Yep.
week, has been downgraded to a level 5. Level 4 is bad.
Level 4 is.
Level 4 is where Crossroad Bridge is.
Right,
Now, we've already got one bridge that's one lane for 7 years now,
yep.
and the state doesn't seem to have any sense of urgency. And I suspect that we're going to get treated the same way with the McKay Hill Bridge. We need to have a comprehensive capital asset program. And I've resisted that in the past because generally when you write a capital asset program, it means that you're going to implement it. And without funding, it's a working fantasy. And in what you want, and not what you need. But we need a lot. Now, I'm writing grants as quick as I can, but you know, I'm one guy.
We even, we walk up Horgan Road, because that's where we lived, and up where the Horgan Road Trail comes out from the park, crossing Bulger. Right at Bulger's property, that culvert has, it's not into the road, but the culvert right at the edge of the road is caved in, and they got a cone there, but that, I mean, if a car ever went off there.
We have culverts under Middle Road that are so rotten, they're turning into open bottom culverts. Literally. I'm not kidding.
No.
I mean, I've walked these roads. When I write my grants, I have pictures. I have knowledge. And you know what? Administering the grant is no cakewalk either. Kyle and I, we did West Cross Road, and that took 2 years to get it completed the right way.
Yep.
But you know what, son of a biscuit, that thing is in good shape, and it's been a solid 6 years, and there's not even a crack in it.
No, that's how we want
And
it
that's
done.
how we want to proceed.
All right, let me just interject really quick here, because I don't want to lose my train of thought. If the bridge something happens with the bridge, we've already committed $190,000 to a 2% increase in the school budget, which is going to leave us $50,000.
4%.
No, at 2%,
Okay.
we still need $190,000 to fund that 2%. Is that correct? Out of stabilization, yes.
No.
No. With the town too.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
okay. So if a bridge goes or something, $50,000 that we have left isn't gonna,
They're going to do nothing.
okay. Wait a minute, let me finish.
Okay.
So that's my point. So
Yeah.
that $50,000 isn't gonna do anything.
But 190,000 isn't going to do anything either.
I get that. And when I'm saying about the low stabilization and Bob's concern is and I expect by the end, I'm a little more optimistic that by the end of the calendar year, we will have free cash certified. We're thinking to the tune of 600 and something thousand. All right?
600.
Okay, let's say 600,000.
Okay.
We take that whole 600,000 and we put it in stabilization.
Immediately.
Instead of having to fund further at a different town meeting, or a special town meeting, to revisit the school
Yeah.
budget. So let's do this now. Just my opinion. Fund the school the best we can with what we have, and when that free cash comes in, and it will come in, we dump that whole 600,000 into stabilization, and then we have a decent stabilization account.
And we can use it anytime we want, because I don't think people understand how stabilization versus free cash works. So, all right, we closed last year's books on June 30th of 2022. So then after you close your books and do all of your, certifications and send this to DOR and all that, and then they certify how you have to look at it as what's left over in your checkbook. You only have until the end of the next fiscal year to use it, and then it goes away. It doesn't mean that the money goes away, the ability to use it goes away. So that's why he was saying, take it out of free cash, put it in stabilization. Look at stabilization as your bank book. It's always there, you know the number, boom.
And that's a
That's-
healthy amount to have, and it's not great,
Right.
but
And
it's a healthy
yes.
amount.
Well, and if there's that much money, again, a part of
should
my
be.
problem is we don't know how much money
We
will
don't.
be there. And the other thing is, I just, again, I strongly feel that it'd be like a family, you got so much food for 3 kids. Well, gee, we're gonna give the oldest kid 90% of it, and the other 2 can struggle. And not that I'm saying this is what happened in the school, but the school's gotta suffer as much as, we gotta all suffer together. And I go around town and I talk to people and I see these culverts and roads, we're not making it. And even the senior center, not to pat my wife on the back, but she's putting in 30 hours a week, all volunteer. So I mean, we can't even afford a director for the senior center. There's 540 seniors in town, third of population, nothing goes to them, it's all volunteer. But the school, again, gets some of it. They have gotta suffer equally, and that's all I'm looking at.
Here, and I hope that the people of the town understand this, so I'm just gonna lay it right out on the line. Our roads stink. I've got the DEP breathing down my neck. Now, the good news is that 60% of our sewer lines are in good shape. The bad news is that 40% of them is not in good shape, and in the I&I, the inflow and infiltration study, which was done, needs to be implemented. A manhole, and I've done my research, depending upon the quality, the style, the composition, is anywhere from $9,000 to $20,000 each. We have 18 that we need to do. The reason that North Eagle Street hasn't been done, because I know what's underneath that road. The sewer lines need to be done. The water lines need to be done. We have an old town hall that's not ADA accessible. We have an old school that's not ADA accessible. We have potholes that are patched with patches that are patching patches. And that is the sad reality. The culverts are failing, and they all cost huge amounts of money. If you remember when we did Gates Avenue Bridge, which actually is really a big culvert, that one culvert, and I had to lobby the governor to change the law, and he did, the regulation, I should say, for our benefit, because if we had done it as DEP said, it was going to be $710,000. And because of the change, I was able to bring it in at $346,000. I'm not patting myself on the back. I think that's a horrible amount of money for a culvert. It's hugely expensive. And I think that when we approach next year's budget, I think we need to sit down and start dedicating some money to the highway department to fix the roads.
I understand. What I'm saying is, the $50,000 we have in there,
Oh, that's
is
not
not gonna
gonna
go
be-
to anything.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do anything with the $50,000, but you
I'm totally
can
agree.
when you dump another $600,000 into it.
Yes,
So let's take care of what we have in front of us,
yeah.
and like
Oh,
I
I'm
said,
on the same page.
if we got road repairs, you're not gonna do it with $50,000. Dump the $600,000 in there, have $650,000, and then work with that number.
I agree.
And then the school is set. The school, this is it, 4%.
And
And then we can't do any more.
That's it. And-
Because to Bob's point, we need that money for in-town, I mean, yes, the roads are patched upon patch. It's ridiculous. But that, if we say, it's not like we got $1 million in there, we're giving the school 900,000. We've got nothing in there, we're giving the school,
Almost everything we got.
almost everything we got, which is close to nothing.
Yeah.
But we will have something. I'm confident that we're gonna have at least $500,000, at least $500,000, plus the 50 or whatever we have left over. And then we have something that the town can work with. We don't have to worry about the school coming back and saying, let's have a special meeting, we need more money. This is what you have. This is 4%. I'm not even comfortable with this. This is the most we can give you. Take the free cash, put it in stabilization, and now we have a good amount where our road crews can actually maybe do something with the roads, or replace a culvert.
Yeah.
Because if we have another $300,000 culvert like you're talking about, at least we'll have it. We'll have the money.
West Road culvert, it needs to be replaced. We've got steel plates on it because there's holes in it. That culvert alone is $400,000.
Our infrastructure is a mess.
But we don't have the money in there now to make the difference right now.
But I think that moving forward into next year's budget, we're gonna need to start plugging money into the repair of our infrastructure, because if we don't, it's going to fail.
Right, but we will have 600,000
We
in there
will,
at this point.
we will be in a better position next
That's
year.
Right, and if we give the school the 4%, which I could go along with, but they have to know in the future that we've got to fix roads.
Yeah.
So they got to tighten up, tighten up, tighten up, and it's not fun.
No.
It's not fun on our end here either.
We don't run this town on a shoestring, we run it on a piece of dental floss.
That's it. So,
We have
Anyway, we
3
can
full-time
move on.
people in town hall, me, Rochelle, and Kelly. And that's it.
okay.
Okay, well, that was a good discussion.
Well,
Well, I think it was pretty open and pretty honest and upfront.
All right.
Thank you.
Dan, you got anything to add to this? I just feel like we dominated the conversation. And you don't have to agree or disagree, just your thoughts,
You know, they're in a tough spot there. I feel like this year we've had to make them make their cuts, which maybe isn't a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? That they really had to tighten up things to get down to where they need to be, and leaving an extra little bit of money in stabilization. But at least we know that there's going to be replenishment coming in for it. If there's no replenishment coming, I'd probably be very against it. But hopefully, a replenishment is coming sooner than later. And
Well, the problem with now having the finance committee is that we weren't able to bring them here as much as I would like to. So in the school, and I remember in one of the meetings, the joint meetings we had, where, and I don't know if it was Lisa or John or somebody said, we are at 13.5% and we cut it down to 8.5%. And that's all well and good, but I'd like to see where they were, what they cut to get to 8.5%, and what, I don't see anything. All I hear is the figures.
And how their budget is drafted, it's hard to even determine. I mean, you look at the town's budget, it
What's the
says
line item?
DPW
Yeah,
wages.
Yeah, right.
It says town administrator wages. It doesn't do that in their budget.
I know.
We don't know what
No,
people are being
it's,
paid.
I
We don't know
just-
how many people.
Right.
I'm just saying, there's not transparency in that budget.
No,
And I
I'm
think
saying,
that should be another goal to work on for the next budget season.
so do I, but I do remember with the finance committee, there was, when John Lev was involved, and he would say, we were here and now we're here, we made these cuts. What cuts did you make? And he would, he would show us. All I'm hearing, and I'm not saying this isn't happening. All I'm hearing is we were at 13.5. Good thing we didn't come in at that. You're damn right. Good thing we didn't come in at that. And then we brought it down to 8.5. But what'd you cut? What'd you cut? I'm hearing programs. It's I don't like that held over my head. I just show me where I can show you what we cut, so that you could get 4%. Show me what you cut. That's all.
I'd like-
And 6 years ago, I was a little upset with transparency too, as I understood that a teacher from another town was teaching at Clarksburg, so her 2 children were going to Clarksburg school, and they weren't charging them school choice money because we're all a family here.
remember that.
I mean, our kids are paying to go to that school.
Yep.
And so it's things like that bother me.
Well, I
And that's
hope
why I
that-
want a finance committee.
I
want
hope that her
on.
W-2 reflected
No,
that,
so-
because that is the law.
And it may
You're
not be
getting
happening.
something,
It
you
may
are
not be
being
happening.
remunerated. Well, you know what, that's the law.
We need a finance committee that really checks their budget and asks all these questions, and next year we'll have one. Come hell or high water.
So,
So, okay.
Okay. We've done our venting for that. Let's go on to the Mass Works update.
so Kyle is back up in with us, and we are going to be meeting with our engineer, and we're starting to put the processes in place. We're gonna start Middle Road with a culvert that was not included in the grant. And that culvert is going to be paid for with Chapter 90 road repair money. So because we're doing that, we're gonna delay the wall on Hall's ground for
Okay.
probably another year.
Okay.
It it doesn't look pretty, but it
Right.
doesn't appear to have moved. And those are the types of choices
Gives
that
and
you have
takes.
to make. Because I certainly do not want to blow through that $1 million grant
And do it
and then
wrong.
dig it up to do a
Yeah.
culvert. That would not sit well with me, and I'm sure the public. There's nothing that gets people worse or madder that a newly laid road that they've waited for a decade or more gets chopped up a week after it's laid.
No, and that's been the philosophy over the years too, from the state and towns, whatever. Paint everything black, do that, inch and 3/4 resurface, and they're not doing the roads right.
Yeah.
And I think the proof is in the pudding with West Cross Road.
Yep.
You did it right, it took time, we can only do a short
Took a
amount,
week.
but look at it, it's lasting, it's lasting, and that's what we gotta do in Middle Road. We gotta do it right. If we do it piecemeal,
My dad used to say, Carl, if you don't have time to do it right the first time, how the hell are you gonna find time to do it right the second time?
but we're money.
And that is a great deal of truth in that.
Just speaking about the Middle Road grant, I know when Kyle was here last time, because I know we're all swamped, everybody's swamped, but he was worried about getting the grant together for this year, because we can do the next part of Middle Road this year. If he needs help with that, or in my mind, because it is still Middle Road and the same thing,
Here is the conundrum relative to that. I'll just tell you the way it is we did spend $15,000 on engineering what we got the grant for.
yeah,
And so for me to go to the grant and have some semblance of being able to present what it's going to cost, I'm not going to have that going for the next segment unless we spend some money on that.
You mean the engineering?
Yes.
and see, in my mind,
I mean, we can try.
well, what I worry about is, like say, missing deadlines, and I know there's reasons.
Yeah.
And it's not them blaming, it's like, we're missing deadlines for grants. The state has money now. I mean, the federal government, if they keep going there, they're gonna collapse, for God's sakes. You can't keep borrowing money. And I just look at it, they went from a 3-year, that we could get this grant every 3 years, and went to every year. We've gotta take advantage of that.
Yeah, we
And
can't
gotta take
let any
advantage of it
grant
now,
go
because it
go
could,
by.
And also understand, the state is swimming in cash,
yeah,
and our increase in aid for the town is less than 1%.
I know that, but
And the school is less than 1%. So even though the state is swimming in cash, they're not sharing it with the towns.
no, they aren't, but that's why I can go back to the funding, even though it's a little bit to $40,000. We're gonna have to use 17,000 of that to do the engineering or whatever, because we wanna get this grant this next year. We
Yeah.
can't keep postponing grants. Even the lift grant, I know there was issues going up there, but it was like, we missed that deadline. We could've got that grant paid for. And I just, we gotta get these grants and get these things in, even if we have to work on it together or put time in it. I'll help Kyle, get the engineer. We gotta get these grants and gotta get them
We
now.
need $15,000 for engineering for it.
That's what the stabilization,
Yeah, could we
that's
do
what the
that for
stabilization is
something?
for. And that's why this little bit of money is going to the school, well, we could hire the engineer.
Depending on where the electrician comes in for the lift. And I was figuring about $100,000 for the lift.
Yeah,
And it's come in substantially lower than that at 68. Now, we still have to, and I'm not sure if 10,000 is gonna cover it. I hope it would.
it should.
So there's 78,000, and if there is the ability to use, because there's criteria that I gotta follow, if there is the ability to use ARPA funds, would the board be supportive of using that for engineering the second segment
Got to.
of Middle Road?
I mean, we can't, I'm nervous about spending 15 grand to possibly get $1 million grant,
Right,
just,
We gotta do it.
So there's
And even if you don't, even if ARPA, we can't use them for the ARPA, we'll still have that amount of money
Yeah,
to
it's
stabilize.
We gotta take it out of
Yeah.
stabilization
Then we can.
fund. We gotta
still
do
could.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't let that, any money really slide by at all at this point. I'm just,
Yeah, and that's why I was worried with Carl, when Carl was here, he was saying, oh, I'm so busy, and he had the storm, again, it's not his fault, it's not Carl's fault, it's like, these things, there's always something coming up, so the grants get postponed. It's the money we need money. And the only way to get money is from the
I've written
grants.
$600,000 in grants that we didn't get.
Yep,
The ADA grant
yeah, you're right,
for the slope and the side things. The $400,000 grant for the West Road, and that is engineered.
yep,
Before I left the last time, I wrote a $40,000 grant to do the engineering through DER.
yeah, and I do realize that we put in for grants, and lots of times you don't get them.
That's
But if you
exactly
don't put in for them, you definitely aren't gonna get them.
Well, this is
If you
true.
get 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10, that's money coming in. So we have to do them all and just get in there. So the grant for the ADA accessibility, was
They're
that?
opening it they're opening the new round in August.
Okay,
So we're gonna have to figure out what project, do we still wanna do the slopes? Or because we got the lift nailed down with ARPA,
right.
so we're
So
good
we
there.
want to do the slopes next.
I did look at the ADA grant, and it doesn't open until August.
Okay, again, and I'll do whatever I can to help you. I'm not here to throw it off on everybody else, but I am definitely one that we've got to not miss these deadlines for these grants. We've got to get them in, and if we have to spend money to do it, just like the 10% match for the MVP, there's millions of dollars out there that we're going to get from this, and we won't get them all, but we'll get some. And,
if you're scheduled, I mean, I know you're juggling, wearing a lot of hats here. And for writing grants, I mean, if we have to, do a grant consulting firm, or, someone to write the grants, lay off a little bit off of you so you can focus on managing other town things, I mean, I understand it costs money, but if we don't get these grants, then we're gonna lose,
But
hundreds of thousands on the other end.
I think that this is a thoughtful conversation we should have with the voters at town meeting. And I think we all should maybe draft something about the status of our infrastructure and the status of the town. Because if you think about it, it's not good. And you know what? My parents' generation and their parents' generation, I'll tell you, son of a gun, they worked hard, they built a hell of an infrastructure, and we've done nothing but run it into the ground. And we need to start investing in our infrastructure, or pretty soon, it won't matter what we have, because you won't be able to get there.
but here's the question, and if we take $15,000 out of stabilization for the engineering of Lower Middle Road, can we get that grant in on time?
Yeah.
Okay, because that, in my opinion, that's what we got to do. Jeff, I don't know what you think.
I'm still thinking about what I've been listening to both of you guys, but the minute it occurred to me is maybe we need a grant writer, or like Dan said, that would take a lot of pressure off of Carl. I don't know how much something like that would cost.
But the bottom line is, I'm totally capable of doing the grant, but you can't do the grant without the engineering.
Right.
It's the engineering that is the stumbling block, because that costs money. So if you get a grant writer, you're still gonna need the engineering.
Yeah.
I can do the
I
grant,
get that, but you're doing the grant along with everything else you're doing.
I know,
So, I mean, it takes something off your plate, and
but is it worth $15,000? That's what it's gonna cost to engineer the next
if we
site.
get $1 million in a grant in, and then,
But then you have to add the cost of the grant writer, they're not gonna work for free.
I don't, that's what I've just.
It's something to investigate to see how
I
much
don't
it
know what
would
a grant
cost.
writer would, what.
I've heard different things where it's $500 to $1,000 to have someone write a grant, and sometimes they take a small, very small percentage of what they bring in for the grant. Kind of, like an incentive for them if they land it for you. They get a small percentage of it. But that's just talking to a few people I know that do it.
I'm curious to see what something like that would cost, if we could get more grants written and more money in.
Here's, and I'm just telling you right now, you get a grant writer and they write the grant, are they going to oversee the grant? Because you know what's gonna happen, you write a bunch of grants and I'm gonna get stuck doing it all. And that's not gonna work.
Well, who gets stuck doing it now?
Me.
Well,
What's the difference?
Well, no, if you're, I'm not gonna stop writing grants, so then therefore, I'm writing grants that I'm gonna have to manage. And then this other person's gonna write grants that I'm gonna have to manage, and Carl will, I don't sleep now.
all right, so the grant person doesn't manage the grant, is that?
No, they write it.
I don't know,
they get the money.
I've never had a grant
For
writer.
$500, and you think they're gonna manage the
I
grant?
don't
Nah.
know. I didn't.
Well, and here's the
don't
thing,
know.
I mean, as much as I'm on Carl, we got the grants out, we have had a heck of a year. I mean, with town hall. You've been spending how much time keeping town hall going, hiring people and all this and that?
Repeatedly.
Repeatedly. In my opinion, I really think we've settled down, and I think you'll be
I
able to
think we are
spend that
finally
time.
where we need to be.
And
I am delighted.
And I think you can do it. It's just that if there's other things we can help you with, then you have to use us to volunteer, like Joe always volunteers and move things. You have to use us that, because your time needs to go in for these grants. Even, I looked at that TIP grant, I was online looking at the TIP grant from the BCRA, or Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, for like Cross Road. Remember I told you last time, I didn't realize there was one for the county and then one for the state. Well, they do roads. Cross Road could be a possibility for that TIP for the Berkshire Regional to do a road, because the fire department is on that road, it's an emergency road, and I'm just not sure. But like Jeff and Dan are pointing out, it takes a lot of time to look into these grants,
So when-
decide what you need. But I'm trying to do that myself so that you don't have to do it, to see if it's a possibility.
Just so you guys are aware, all right, so one of the community compact grants that I wrote was I wrote a grant to have BRPC write grants. And that's how we got MVP as a result of my work on the hazard mitigation grant. So, and they're working on numerous grants now as we speak. So it's kind of like having a grant writer, and it's been paid for with the grant that I wrote. I know it sounds silly.
Yeah.
You write a grant to write grants.
Yep.
And that's what I did. And so far, it's been working pretty good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yes, there's more we could do. Everything costs money, my friends.
Anyway, yeah, and I remember when the
You're gonna
Pittsfield,
spend money, make money.
Yeah.
I remember when the Pittsfield, they said there was that 5 project expression and interest grant, remember went there? I mean, that all takes time to investigate all these things. But I look at Pittsfield and I look at some of these towns, they're getting a lot of money in grants. And I think a lot of it is we are so busy and so consumed with what's been going on,
Well, here's-
is we're missing the deadlines for these grants that we gotta get, because the money's gonna
Here's
run
another
out.
component, all right, so, I mean, let's bring this thing full circle. So the Mass Works grant that I wrote, part of the narrative is that this rezoning effort might offer some potential expansion of our tax base. So we wrote the grant to do the study back in 2019 for the zoning, and then tie that in with the road work. So when Pittsfield gets grants, there's the possibility of jobs at the end of the tunnel. Okay? How many jobs are we gonna get in Clarksburg?
Right,
No.
none.
You know, so the state is going to look at that, and that is going to be one of the qualifiers. I'm just saying, because of our size,
Yep.
because of our antiquated zoning, we cannot afford to be parochial. We have to be progressive. We have to think outside of the box. We have great possibilities. I mean, when we met with the school, I asked them to write letters to their representatives. I don't know if any did. I would certainly appreciate if they had, but I suspect not. It just doesn't seem to be in anybody's repertoire. It's a sad state of affairs.
Well, and again, and that's where we got prioritized, but I do think the rest of Middle Road is a top priority to get engineering done, to get that strap grant for next year.
Yep, I agree.
Let us see where ARPA brings us after the lift is all priced out.
Well, either way,
Well,
we
yeah.
have stabilization to use that.
Right, I would say,
And you know, we're
get
not,
the engineer going, then we'll decide how to pay for it,
I
right?
mean, if we're gonna plan on closing the budget next week, maybe, we still have a little time. You guys think about it. Is another 15,000 out of there to do the engineering on Middle Road? Does it make sense or no?
Out
It
of
does.
stabilization?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the only source of money the town has. I mean, whether we have 39,000 or 24,000, you know, at this point, what's it matter?
It doesn't, and to get that $1 million grant does matter, and like I said, we're gonna replenish it with the free
It's
cash.
not my
yeah.
decision, but
Yes,
if
we
you,
are.
So we
it's
definitely,
not my decision, but if you give me the money, I can get it engineered.
We'll get you the money.
we'll give you the money out of stabilization.
Yeah.
So does that have to go into this warrant?
It would go on the annual town meeting warrant.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, but we'll do that when we close the budget.
Okay.
I can't finish the warrant, and I'm working on some language
okay,
that has to be specific for, and I've reached out to the school committee. I need permission. Brixville Water District is donating the siding that we took off piece by piece by piece by piece on the house that we're gonna knock down. It's all in good condition, it's gray, it's neutral, to side the carport or the loading dock area, which doesn't really look very good. And we'll have John do it.
yep,
Okay. So I need permission for that. I need permission to lease the roof to a solar company to generate revenue. Obviously, can't do it till the roof is replaced. But that will get a rental fee plus a pilot fee.
yep,
Now, that money can be dedicated to a stream, and that is in Mass General laws, for ongoing repairs at the school, or to pay for the roof if the state doesn't come through. I need permission for the landfill to do a solar array, same thing, rent the property, and then that would go into the general fund. So that would be a revenue source for 20 years, because you're gonna have to do a 20-year lease. I have ideas, you know, to diversify our tax base and not be so reliant on the property tax. But it takes time, and we're gonna get there. And it takes cooperation, and it takes a whole lot of meetings and talking to people, and we've been doing that. And we can consider next week, if you wanna put in some engineering for the rest of Middle Road, I would welcome that. But I don't wanna pressure you to do it when we weren't really kinda thinking of doing it to begin
we
with,
definitely wanna do it.
so.
When are you gonna close that, warrant? When will we vote on that?
We have to post the warrant 1 week before town meeting. I like to have more wiggle room than that. Special town meeting is 2 weeks, but
Okay.
annual town meeting is 1.
Okay,
So if we're looking at the 31st of May, I would like to close the warrant by May 15th, so we
Okay.
have a little bit of time.
okay,
Not a lot, but we do have a little bit of time.
okay.
When will you know if that money is available from the ARPA funds, that the difference of the
I have to get a price.
68,000?
The only thing that's hanging, well, I gotta work out those issues with Garvanta and then get a price on the wiring. And once I have the price on the wiring and then add it to what the bid is 68,000 bucks. So hypothetically, if it's 5,000 bucks, I know where I'm at with that. I know what I have to commit to the fire truck.
Mhm.
We should be
Where
good.
does the rest of that money from ARPA fund, what's left, does it go to general fund, or what happens there? We have to get rid of all of it?
We should, but it's gotta be,
Well, I mean.
there's 180 pages
No,
of.
what I'm saying is if we take the $17,000 out of stabilization for the engineering, or 15, whatever it is, can we put that back in with the ARPA funds? If that
Well,
becomes available after the town meeting?
The ARPA funds are sitting up there in our bank account, and it's not subject to appropriation.
Right,
It
Okay.
doesn't go to town meeting. So we've
so
got,
we couldn't put it in the stabilization fund?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
And we're not even sure if we could use it for engineering. That may not,
I think
It
we
has to
could.
have a specific public good
well, okay.
I think we could.
that has to impact as many people as possible. So you might be
A
able to.
little gray
put-
area.
Everybody drives on Middle Road,
That's
yeah.
right.
Everybody does.
And, I mean, I will revisit some of that. I'm not comfortable giving you a clear answer.
No, I'm just, I'm, if we didn't have to take it out of stabilization, if we could get it from somewhere else, I'd rather get it from there, obviously, but if
I
it needs to
agree.
take it from stabilization, then we take it from stabilization.
Either way, we gotta get that engineering done so we get that grant.
Yeah, I think we just need to keep an eye on deadline dates for that grant and just make sure we hit all our dates, so we don't miss anything on that.
And we weren't trying to upset you, Carl, we were trying to help you.
Oh, I'm not
But-
upset, I'm not upset at all. Actually, I think that we're having a very good exchange of ideas. I mean,
Oh,
it
that's how
does,
things happen.
it does nothing to have a bunch of yes people or no people that don't listen to people or
Okay.
talk past people. You know, we all need to understand how we can all accommodate each other's needs and come to a satisfactory agreement. And that's
All right.
politics.
Speaking of satisfactory agreement, the storm cleanup update.
Oh, mon Dieu. So I talked with Kyle and a couple of things. So it's going to take months to clean up from the storm. We still have a lot to clean up. I am getting calls from people that want him to come and clean up their yard, pretty much. That's not going to happen. I just want to be incredibly clear on that. If you find yourself with storm debris, and that means trees and branches, I don't see a problem of Kyle being able to tell you where to put it. And I mean that. And I do mean
Yeah, we
that
wouldn't have any trouble.
in the literal sense. But if the town does have some property, and it is natural, as long as, you know, during a certain period of time or something, I'll talk to Kyle on that. But I would ask the John Q. public to be very patient.
So we're not doing pickups.
We do not, no,
Just
not
to get
happening.
that out there.
No,
We don't
I
do
just
pickups.
wanted, I'm getting calls from people, I picked sticks up along the road, and I got a big pile in my yard, and, well, I'm sorry, and thank
Yeah,
you,
I've
but,
had people ask me, I said, no, we
No.
cannot do private property.
no. You can't do that.
No.
So that's that.
Actually, go on the storm update, we were able to reach out, was it FEMA that was?
They're not giving us any money.
No money.
No,
Same
and
as
you know, the
regional.
problem is, our elevation it was the perfect storm for Clarksburg.
Yeah, Clarksburg and
We got
Sanford
30
nailed it.
inches, I did.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were other areas with more, but North Adams didn't.
Right,
And the lower elevations didn't. Some of the higher elevations didn't. And they look at it as a region, and unfortunately, we stuck out like a sore thumb.
yeah, it's ridiculous. No, Searsburg Mountain had no damage because they were cold.
Go figure, man, you
No.
figured it would have been an
You
iceberg.
know what, but Stanford and Clarksburg, they got nailed.
Yeah,
Because we were, like you say, we were.
right at the right
We
elevation.
got heavy wet snow,
Yep.
36 to 40 inches at my house.
I was singing praises when I was shoveling for the second time, 3 feet deep.
Yeah.
It came off my roof. I was really happy.
All right.
Darn.
Before we go to, is anybody here for public comment? Sue or Joe? All right, well, so before we do that, and before we enter into executive session, we need to approve a cemetery lot,
Yes.
because it's after 2, so we figured it would be.
And got delayed.
All right.
That's why you got the second agenda
Okay, so this is just a basic,
sale.
something we do every,
Yep.
I mean, I don't typically read the name of the person. Do you want, that, or how do you do this?
It's totally up to you.
All right. I'm gonna make a motion to, how do we do this? Approve the cemetery lot 20, section D grave, lot number 2. And I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
On line item number 9, the update on meeting with elected officials at Clarksburg Elementary, we talked about the lift with that, but I was thinking that was gonna be about our upcoming meeting with the elected officials to talk about the group. Is that,
That's the 26th of May.
okay, so we do have a set date on it?
Yep, that's what Sandy, I inquired from Sandy. 26th of May, so we can send out the invite.
Yeah, at that meeting, yeah, we're gonna have to, Carl, you and I, we're gonna have to make sure we don't ramble on, because I think there's several points we wanna talk to them about. One is like the bridge out at the state park. I was promised that this year it'd be done, and I wanna make sure that they're on board with that. If our Crossroad Bridge is gonna be on the TIP program, I wanna make sure they know that, because they are the ones that could push it up, quicker if
I
they
think
deem
there's
necessary.
probably 4 major
The
issues,
school roof,
and I think pilot. They
And-
really,
yeah.
and you know, I think that people don't realize how small geographically Clarksburg is.
yeah,
So there are other communities that have more land than we do, that is owned by the state,
yep,
but it's a smaller percentage of their town.
exactly.
If you look at a map, you can see how teeny tiny, we're only 8,000 acre town. North Adams is like 3 times our size.
Oh, yeah,
And so when they own 4,300 acres in our town, 53%. But they could own 12,000 acres in Savoy and still not hit 50%.
right,
So, you know, it's magnified.
yep. Well, I just want to make sure we let them know of all our issues, so we'll meet before then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we should almost make our own little agenda that we wanna talk about, a checklist of things, so
Yeah.
we don't miss anything.
Right, and then we
So we're
want,
talking,
and then we want to make sure we don't ramble on.
And it may be that we have one speaker for each topic. I mean, there's the 3 of us plus me.
But-
I have no problem.
do we know what time that meeting is yet?
Not
Is it
yet.
set yet? Okay.
I mean, I would assume that basically anytime we can get him up here, we'll work around it. We could ask him, you know, that we dedicated May 26th, can you give us some times that work for you, and then start working toward that.
Probably wanna do it in the morning, cause I'm just thinking, you know,
And
Have they agreed to the 26th?
the school has.
Okay,
That's what I got from the school.
okay.
So the invite has to go out to Senator Mark and Representative Barrett.
it was one of their dates that they put out there that they could do it, right? Wasn't one of their interns sent an email, said like these are possible dates that would be available?
No, I thought the email was just saying they're looking for possible dates
And
from
so
us.
I'll
Gotcha.
respond after this meeting.
Yeah.
At the 26th and what time works for you, and I'll also share that with Representative Barrett.
All right. No public comment? Anybody? All right, well then I need to adjourn the public part of this meeting and make and vote to go into executive session for a contract negotiation. So I'll make the motion to enter into executive session.
Roll call vote.
On contract negotiations. Jeff Levanis, yes?
Bob Narcross, yes?
Dan Haskins, yes?
Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, you want me to wait for?
Actually, while he's got to power down his camera anyways, I could help him with the kayak.
Okay, all right. All right, at this point, I'd like to adjourn the public part of this select board meeting on Wednesday, April 26th at 2:34 PM.